of everybody. Oh, thank you. Recording in progress. I thought that the phrase that's on the tip of everyone's tongue is obviously lights, camera, action, and I'm going to throw sound in there as well because that's fairly important. So I think this might be fake news, but I'm aware of a Spielberg quote that says 80% of filmmaking is sound, and it's actually often overlooked. You know, it's all well and good getting the pictures, but if you can't hear what's going on, you know yourself, if you click on a video, if you're watching a video online and the sound's bad, it's gone straight away. You can forgive bad camera work, but I've made a career out of that. But you can't forgive bad sound. So we're going to talk a little bit about sound as well. And then maybe if we've got time, how much time have I got, by the way? I don't want to waffle on too long. I want to, what time's this session over?
Let's, if we go till half 5, and then we'll take some questions. Okay, great.
And maybe as well, because I'm gonna dance around a lot. Certainly questions at the end I'm happy for, but if I go through and mention something, and you know, I'm happy to interject with a question or 3. No limit on that. So without further ado, let's talk about lights. Okay, I'm going to dip away, much like a dodgy magician from the 70s, into my bag and pull out the odd rabbit. So we'll start off with the heavy artillery. This is from a company called Aperture, and it's about these are about 800 quid, but they're very full featured. And I don't want you to tune out just because I've mentioned a ridiculous price for somebody that's starting out. But these are DMXable, which is basically an interface that allows you to computer control lights, and it's very over featured. It's 120 watt, which is quite bright. You can get 300 watt versions. But it's very expensive. I mean, 800 quid for a light. Come on now, be sensible. So the good old Chinese, although this is Chinese, you can pick these up, which is obviously, as you can see, I think there's a little bit of design cloning going on there. This one is 1/10 of the price. You can pick these up for 120 quid, and they're 60 watt. It says on the end, so you can get a fairly decent light. Now, back in the day when I started off, we used to use these things called red top lights, and they had incandescent bulbs, which are like 400 watts a go. So you've got 3-point lighting. You've got 3 of them on the go. You're burning over a K. That's like boiling a kettle while you've got your lights on. So not only that, they get very hot. You'd fall over and your bulbs would smash, and you'd not have a new bulb. Oh, the joys. And then you'd have to wait for an hour after you'd shot in order for them to cool down. So you can still get red top lights on eBay, and I do recommend eBay as well for all these things. There's a lot of, okay, I call it shiny new ball syndrome, and the danger is in this field that there's always the cutting edge of technology. There's always this sort of the early adopter end, and you're paying a top dollar for that. But if you just back yourself off away from the curve, you can pick up gear that people are recycling, as it were. You know, people are dispensed with, and they'll do the job admirably. We'll get into a little bit more of that when we talk about cameras in a bit. But the basis, you know, obviously, apart from us having a story to tell, it's no good having all the gear and no idea. Obviously, we need to our stock in trade is capturing light. That's really all what a camera does is capture light. So it's important that what we're doing is well lit. Now, in your best case scenario, and you could probably do a masterclass just on lighting, to be fair, so I'm not going to labor too long. But you want, in the ideal situation, you want a 3-point lighting sort of situation. So you've got a key light and a fill light, and then a hair light, you know, one behind. So if you're going to turn up and have it nicely lit, although there are no rules now, I've seen things that are half lit and it looks like somebody coming out the shadows. You know, your style's your style, but it's and I don't know, you know, if you different clients want different things. If you're your client because you're producing what you want, you've got a style to pursue. But I'm just saying from industry sort of standards, you want a 3-point lighting kit. Now, if you're going for that aperture solution, and they're £1,000 each, that's £3,000 just on lights. Well, that's rather dear. So, you know, Godox, quite a good brand, cheap and cheerful. Doesn't have the full feature set of the other one, but again, back yourself off on the leading edge of the curve and do something that does the job. Now, the problem with LED as opposed to incandescent light is that it shoots out very, very straight lights. Now, there's a couple of things you need to be aware of. As much as you don't want to buy too cheap, because the problem with cheap LEDs is they'll give you a blue cast. The other problem that it can be is LEDs, they actually work at 50 hertz. So they're not constant. It's not constant light. It's flickering beyond your perceptions, but it's flickering nevertheless. And if you're not careful, if your shutter speed on your camera is out of sync, or in sync rather, with the frequency of the LED light, you'll get banding across your image. And you'll notice that sometimes if you shoot somewhere and they've got the building lit with LED lights, cheap LED, you know, installation lights, this nasty banding, like a dark line that scans up the image. Just something to be aware of. You can get over that by adjusting your shutter speed, but cheap LEDs, nasty things. That's tungsten lights, lovely, but cheap running costs and nicely featured. Now the problem is, as I say, because this shoots out light in a different way than an incandescent bulb, it will create very stark shadows. Hence why you want the 3 lighting even more. But what you'll need to do is diffuse the light. So I'll show you if you can just leave you with the mastermind chair for a second.
While you're getting that, Colin, can I ask you a question about those?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So LED lights usually work by charging a battery pack.
Yeah.
Do those ones work the same way, or do they need plugged in when you're on it?
Well, this is a good point, and I'm glad you raised that, because I didn't mean to mention that. But again, these cheap ones only powered. The beauty of the aperture is that can run off V-lock batteries, so it can be completely self-sustained in the field. V-lock is like your professional standard battery. They're big chunky things that clip on. It's what you'd see on the back of a broadcast production camera. Huge, big things. And yeah, so those small, the larger ones can take V-lock, but obviously you can get smaller, you know, on camera light, these are rechargeable. It's got an on button somewhere here, I'm sure. It's probably needs something. There you go. And the great thing about this is you can change the intensity. And you can change the. I can't see because I just blinded myself, so I can't see the settings. But that's like a little on-camera light, but it's very handy to use as a hair light or what have you. So I would suggest, you know, mix and matching. Again, aperture, look them up. get them online. You can get these for, 150 quid. You probably get away with 3 of them for the 3-point lighting setup. And they even do versions now in RGB, so red, green, and blue LEDs, so you can have funky color setups and things. But what you'll want to do with your bigger lights is diffuse them. So again, Godox, you can pick these up for about 20 quid, but they're a bit cumbersome. You're not getting on the bus with 3 of these, let's put it this way. You can break them down, but then do you really want to be the man that looks like he's trying to put up a deck chair in front of a client? Possibly not, but I'll leave that up to you. Aperture do one. This is a mini, and these are more expensive. These are about £150. But what you can do with this is, it'll make a lie out of me now. Oh no, it quite easily packs down, and again you can reverse that process. I'll let you use your imagination, and then finally on the light is the good old trusty light panel, which is obviously an in between. So it's like anything really. It depends on your needs and your budget, but I would say try not to scrimp too cheap, because you can go online and you can see a nice little LED that looks like this for 20 quid, and you'll get it, and it'll just have a horrible blue cast. You need to check the specs for the color index. It's like an industry standard sort of measurement for how close the color rendering, I think it's called the CRI, how close the color rendering is. And if the cheaper ones, if you put them through a spectrograph, you'll see the blue LEDs, which are the cheapest to produce. And although I'm not sure now, because it's impossible to get hold of anything with a microchip in these days, isn't it? That's just something to be aware of. And again, get something that perhaps has got some color temperature changing on, so it can go from the colder, lower temperature to a warmer temperature, just to give somebody that nice Instagram glow that everybody's searching for. The other thing that I haven't got to hand right now, which is easy to enhance your look, is a reflector. They fold down to a yay big, and you'll boom, and it'll pop out to yay big, and you can use that to reflect the light and ape that golden hour look that we all crave, by shooting your normal white light back off a golden reflector. So that's probably where we're at with lights. Now I'll talk about sound next, and we'll leave the best till last. We'll leave the cameras till last. I mean, as I say, lights and sound are, they're the unlovely bits of digital filmmaking, and the bits that are easily overlooked. Now, obviously, if you can capture, I need to peep into, no, leave the cameras. If you can capture the sound into your camera really well, i.e. you can attach a really good mic to your camera, and we'll come on to that when we look at the cameras, then great. But if you're shooting on an iPhone or something, and here's a little thing, these are called moments lenses. They looked them up, to the American company, and you put a little adapter on the back of your phone, and you can add interchangeable lenses. So that will then just take your normal standard iPhone lens and make it into a nice wide angle lens, because it's not always practical just to take a couple of steps backwards to get a wide angle. Sometimes you actually need the glass to support that. But if you are, and it's perfectly acceptable to shoot on an iPhone-ish, and we'll get into some of the drawbacks of that a little bit later when we talk about color depth. But the thing that you're going to fall down on is sound. Now, do you want to be the person that rocks up with a pared down camera, but you've got a mic hanging off it and a monitor hanging off it and a this hanging off it, and you're tricking it out so that it becomes some unwieldy piece of equipment? If you are using an iPhone, again, perfectly acceptable. You might need to consider getting an external audio recorder. This is a Zoom 8.6. I can't recommend this highly enough. It's basically, it can take 6 inputs. Am I going too fast?
Sorry, I just missed that. Just what's that you've got now?
This is an audio multi-track audio recorder. So if you're recording, if your camera doesn't support decent acquisition of audio, then you can capture it separately onto a device like this. It's got capsules that fit to the end that make it into a microphone, but it's also got these jacks on the side. Now, they take XLR inputs, which is really handy if you're working in an environment, maybe a theatre environment, or you're doing a live band and they've got a PA. You can take a feed out of their desk into your separate recorder, and then you've not got your room sound. You can capture scratch sound on your camera and then maybe mix it in a little bit in post, just to give it that live feel. But these are great to as a proper reference sort of sound capture thing. You can I didn't bring it downstairs, but you can get a boom pole with a shotgun mic on it and attach it into this, and again, these are all sorts of prosumer things. Obviously, a sound man would be standing on his head now, screaming at me, because they rock up with a big cradle round and have all sorts of mad compression gear built in. But this is these little external recorders are great. You can do podcasts with them. You can clip in a couple of wireless lapel mics, which we'll get into in a moment, and record the audio into that. If your camera doesn't support those professional connections, and that will. The important thing with this, though, the one tip I will say is, if you do use 2 different sources, i.e. your camera is acquiring the video and you're acquiring sound to another device, it's really important that you give a reference at the start to sync your audio for post. And you might have seen this in studios or what have you, where the presenter will just, I shouldn't have done that really, just burst my eardrum, where the presenter will clap, and that will give you a reference in post to sync up your video and your audio, because obviously when the hands goes together, that's when the peak of the sound wave goes. So
Colin, sorry, can I just ask a bit, is that battery operated?
This is battery operated. Yeah, you can battery operate them. What I tend to do is put a couple of batteries as backup, and then plug this in via USB to. Well, the great thing about these is you can plug this up. Now, full disclosure, I'm a Mac man. What can I say? I spent 15 years wrestling with computers and Unix machines, and realised that once you go Mac, you don't go back. They just work. You don't have to spend grands and grands and grands. I've got I've got a 2011 MacBook there, which I put an SSD in, and it still does the business. If a really good tip for a really powerful machine for doing video editing, which is about 500 quid, is get yourself a Mac Mini. Okay, it's not portable, but you can HDMI it up to your telly and get a keyboard, and you're good to go. I started off with a Mac Mini when I very first started. It's the most accessible route into Macland. But basically, if you do use an interface like this, you can plug it into your Mac, you can plug it into GarageBand, which is obviously the free sound thing there, and you can basically multi-track all your audio into different tracks. And while it's plugged in as an audio interface, you'll be obviously receiving power from this. But that's a long way of answering your question, saying yeah, it is battery powered, and it will do enough to, you know, on a full load of AA's, four AA's. You can sit that, as I say, at the back of the room with the sound desk if you're in that sort of environment, and slave off their channels. You might have to buy the sound guy a coffee, because they do always pretend that it's the hardest thing in the world to give you a sub mix out, when it definitely isn't. Don't take no for an answer. That's one of my tips. So the other thing then, sound, lapel mics. These are probably the best thing ever. And again, that's the transmitter, and that's the why has my screen just disappeared? That's a bit disconcerting. That's the transmitter, and that's the receiver. These work on a frequency that's not clogged up with other wireless traffic. You can get Rode versions of this, which are more cheap and cheerful, but they piggyback the Wi-Fi signal, which might be great in a home environment, although not particularly now, because everything's got a Wi-Fi channel. I think these operate at 1900 megahertz. They're license free. They're not like the old analog Sennheiser stuff, which are, well, they're being phased out now, but you used to have to get a license to operate on those channels, unless it was channel 70. But again, you run the risk with those older systems, the analog systems, of picking up passing taxi drivers, which is a little bit awkward for your final audio mix. So entertaining, but awkward. So this XLR, again, XLR connection can plug into your audio recorder or your camera. Again, we'll look at that in a moment. You paired up the devices, and jobs are good.
Can I ask, sorry, what are they called?
These are Sony AVX. Sony, listen to me. Sennheiser AVX. Sennheiser spelled like that. Is my camera backwards? Is it? That's no good, is it? You can read that in a mirror. You've got a mirror.
No, it's the right way.
Is it? Okay. That's a relief. The beauty of these is as well that you can obviously get handheld mics, so you can have one receiver, and depending on on how you want to use it, you can pair it with a lavalier mic, or you can pair it with a handheld. So it's very, very flexible system. Crystal clear. There might be a frame lag in the audio, but that's not enough really to perceive. Real audiophiles will berate me for that sort of talk, but for the type of use that we're going to be getting into, not one frame slippage is nothing to be afraid of. So they're not cheap. You know, a set like that full price would be about £800. But again, eBay is your friend. I've picked up the additional packs of these for like £250. I've picked up this microphone was £100 that someone was selling. You're taking a little bit of a punt. You know, hopefully that the guy isn't ripping it off with some cheap, cheesy clone, but I've been really fortunate. And it gives you a certain feeling of satisfaction that you haven't paid nearly £900 for something, and you can rock up with the same kit and it's cost you, you know, near a £3. So I've got 3 of these. Normally, you're not using more than 2. Mostly, you're just using 1. And I would say the most important thing with this is purely aesthetic, and it's please stash the wire inside the talent, in inverted commas, clothes, because it just looks so naff, doesn't it, when you see the wires outside. Obviously, get them to pass this down their own shirt. You don't want any libel suits forthcoming. But not libel, it wouldn't be libel, would it? Be something completely different. We won't get into that now. So yeah, Sennheiser AVX, they're great. I've got, I'll just reach into my bag of tricks. Just for full disclosure, these are the predecessors, and you can pick these up quite nicely. These used to be industry standard. I hate saying things like this, but when I was at the BBC, this is the body packs that people would wear, the GW100s. Again, these are analog, so you're taking a chance with atmospherics. Digital, although they're more expensive, you've got a crystal clear, you've got a good, strong signal. So yeah, have a little look online for GW100s. Channel 70 is what you want, because that way you don't get some nasty government official fining you at tens of thousands of pounds for bleeding over some MI6 bandwidth. You can also this is an analog thing. This provides phantom. I forgot. Where's this? This provides phantom power to shotgun mics, and this will be what you see reporters using out in the field. They've normally got a hand whole handle on it, which is in my bag, and obviously that, you know, you can offer that wirelessly to. The problem with the new AVX line is they don't provide the phantom power. What is this phantom power of which you speak? You're all crying out, aren't you? I'm just looking for the proper mic. I haven't got a clue where it is, but basically, shotgun mics require a 12-volt power source to make them sensitive. Basically, to you can't just plug in an XLR and hope it will work. It needs that power. So these wireless packs will provide that power to the that is my proper shotgun, beg your pardon. Sennheiser 416, probably the industry standard for decent shotgun mics, and basically these work on a certain frequency range, 830 to 866 megahertz. So what you'll do is you'll set your receiver which looks very much like the transmitter, to be fair. You know, one's a which one's which, it doesn't really matter for the purposes of this, but one receives and the other transmits. And so you'll set the frequency of the receiver to be whatever is clear, whatever's free of taxis, and you'll set the transmitter to be the corresponding frequency. So there's a little bit more jiggly-pokery goes on with the analog system. They can do a perfectly serviceable job, but it's not quite as fast as press pair, wait till the light turns green, job's a good one. You know, you need to hunt through the frequencies. And I've had a few nightmares in the past where I've done for example, political speeches and stuff, and you go in and you mic them up and you set up a clear channel and everything's great, and then the room fills up with 600 people and they bring in their own electronic interference, and by the end of it, everything's gone west. But the chances of you know, if you're in a very controlled environment and it's just you and a guest or whatever, you're not going to really run into that situation. And you can pick these GW100s up relatively cheap. I've actually got a set to sell if somebody wants to buy one, but that's not why I'm here. So there you go, sound. Is there anything else on sound he's thinking?
Can I just ask another question? Sorry.
Please do. Please ask as many as possible.
You know your shotgun mic, did you say that one is analog and it has to have the phantom power, or is it digital? Sorry.
Yeah, no, the actual microphones are sort of ambivalent of whether they're digital or not. That's the actual capsule.
Yeah.
If you like. Now, if I plug this in hardwired with an XLR, then whatever I plug this into has got to deliver 12 volts to this for it to work. Otherwise, it's just a very expensive looking stick. So these little beauties, they can spit out phantom power. When we come onto the camera, that can spit out phantom power. But the better, I mean, Rode do a lot of good shotgun mics.
Yeah.
But as you'll see, there's certain themes that appear in my in my bag. In that, if I find somebody that makes a good piece of kit, I'll adopt them quite heavily. And I'm not, and by no means, you know, the disclaimer is other producers of equipment are available, and I'm not precious over. Oh, you're using Rode. Oh, I'm using. You know, it's none of that. This works for me, and I like to try and keep things in the same ecosystem if possible. So whereas I've got lights that are from Aperture, and I've got all my sound kit is from Sennheiser. It's good old trustworthy German engineering. You know, my granddad will be spinning in his grave with me saying that, but unlucky pops. So it's,
Sorry,
you know,
can I just clarify something dead quick?
Please do.
Make sure I've got it right.
Yeah.
So if you have that oh God, I've got it all written down here. I don't want to get it wrong now. So you have the shotgun mic, and then you can plug it into your Zoom for the phantom power, but you'd still need the analog receiver and transmitter for that one.
Well, no. If you use the wire, then you're not. I mean, and that obviously this can be longer for the purposes.
Yeah. Because the only other reason you need the other one is because it's just freestanding with the. Right. Okay. Cool.
So that's. I mean, that's sometimes wires aren't your mate. You know, and particularly in this day and age, where you're having to offer up a shotgun at greater than 2 meters distance. You know, you're well, it's a meter now, isn't it? Apparently, so, but it's, you know, it's don't infect me while I get your sound. It's wires are. Listen, how do you coil a wire and put it in your bag, and then when you get it out, it's in a knot? You know, we've all had that experience with our headphones. So the best, you know, that offers a pretty sort of seamless, particularly if you're chasing somebody around outside. Again, it's very difficult for me to generalize because you're all going to be utilizing this equipment in different scenarios. You know, most of what I do is run and gun. You know, I'll turn up at an event and my job is to capture the essence of that event. So it's got to be as flexible as possible. So the chances of me falling over are quite high anyway. And I don't want to increase that chance by having a load of cables knocking about. So yeah, that's sound for you. Again, you know, probably the one thing that I haven't mentioned that's quite important with sound is it may all be well and good plugging in the greatest mics in the world, but if you don't have a little listen, you know, you might have a meter, well, you will have a meter registering the input. You can't go off that. You can't just say, oh, it's not going into the red, that'll be fine. You know, you really need to pop the cans on and make sure you can hear. And what will take a second, well, a slight exaggeration, what will take a couple of seconds to check will save you such heartache in post. Because as I say, bad sound on a video is unforgivable in the viewer's ears, I would say. You know, you listen to something that's crackly. Now, a thing that I haven't mentioned, and I've left me proper dead cat upstairs, unfortunately, but wind noise, is our enemy, basically, with sound. There's nothing you can do to fix it in post. There's no amount of plugins or this, that, and the next thing that can get rid of wind noise because it's so variable. There's no, you know, an algorithm's only good at picking out something that has got a discernible pattern. And wind, as you know, is all over the place. So this is why you get these are little fluffy things that obviously I grow these for a living, but I get to a certain point and then just whip them off a bit of Pritt stick. Jobs are good. Little cottage industry there, not available to all. But basically these go over. Well, the first point here actually is I had the standard one somewhere. It is the foam on here. That's good to reduce pops and the explosive sound, but it's not good at reducing wind. So we get that on, and it's surprising what sort of a gale you can stand in. What sort of a hoolie, I think is the word, is it, Martin? I think it's a hoolie, it's called. You can stand in, and that will protect you accordingly. As I say, if you've got wind noise, it's terrible, isn't it? And I'm sure we've all heard. And this is the thing about shooting on a phone, and the thing about needing to acquire the sound separately. I'm sure we've all experienced being out somewhere and we've just whipped our phone out and shot it, and it sounded great in the thing, but there's a crosswind or there's a strong bass line, and it just the low frequency just blows it out the water. So that's sound. I need to take a breath, don't I?
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, please do. Please do.
So what's the answer then?
To
wind.
Wind is get yourself a fluffy cover, a dead cat. Get yourself.
Oh, the fluffy. Oh, so you said the foam cover was good for pops.
Yes.
The fluffy one's good for wind.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the foam will reduce, you know, slight wind, but you know, if I was standing on a vacant hill in the Lake District, this wouldn't pass muster. But these do. I've got a proper big one. You see them at the side of football pitches. They look like a hairy zeppelin, and they are the you know, they come with their own grooming kit. You know, you get a brush with them and all sorts. You spend longer. Well, obviously, as you can see by the kip of me, you spend longer looking after your mic coverings than you do after yourself. So that doesn't get to see the light of day very often. But if you're in particularly, you know, wild environment, that you can really be standing in like a, you know, a Force 8 and get exceptionally clear sound out of it. But these are actually quite expensive for what they are. As I say, it takes a while to grow them, but they're very, very well worth it. And if you are thinking of getting out there, you can get little stick-on ones for your phone that go over the microphone bits, but little bit, you know, you don't want your phone Velcro into your beard halfway through the day, do you? So that's probably not the answer. And I suppose I'll segue into a bit of camera action, because this is obviously a similar sort of thing. It's a smaller sort of on-camera version, but it's got the fluffiness, and it's obviously, when you get a little bit stressed out on a shoot, it's proven, isn't it, to reduce stress to pet a small animal, isn't it? Is it not? I think it is. So, cameras, shall we say? How are we doing? Right. This is now this is where it starts getting a little bit more interesting, and well, potentially, he says, hopefully. This is a trusty old workhorse. Here we have a traditional video camera, shall we say. It's called a Sony PX. Oh God, I can't even remember. PXW670, is it? Not particularly important. What the I'm not on commission from Sony, although by the end of this you might think that I am, because I've placed myself in the Sony ecosystem, and I know there was always, a few years ago, there was a big thing between Canon and Sony and things like that, but with the differing color science and so on and so forth. But this is your sort of, well, it's not bog standard, because it's got a few additions to your normal. Now you can take this handle on and off. So that looks like the sort of handy cam you'd see down the beach in the 90s, doesn't it? That just looks like your normal Sony handy cam. But it's got a couple of different, it's got a few enhancements that make it pro. And they are at the back there. You can see this little adapter there. That's called a SDI, and that's basically the pro way of getting video out. It's got an HDMI socket as well, and we're all familiar with HDMI. But the problem with HDMI is, as you know, because we all use it in the back of our whatevers, in the back of our tellies, that it's easy just to yank out. So if you're recording onto the camera, which you'll probably do in 99.9% of the time, then you've got two SD card slots. Now, that's again, this sort of camera separates the men from the boys. I don't want to be gender specific in that reference there, the boys from the girls, the women from the lady. Anyway, this particular thing, having two SD cards allows for two modes of operation. One is obviously redundancy, because SD cards, they're not infallible. you rock up and shoot something that's obviously, you can't say to Luis Suarez, you know, just curl that in the top corner again. You know, my SD card's failed. It may well be if you're in a controlled shoot and it fails, you can just be very embarrassed and say to all the people, oh, sorry, can we do that again? But it basically records onto both cards simultaneously. So if one card fails for whatever reason, and it can happen, then you'll obviously have the redundancy of having the second card. It happens infrequently, but it does happen. And again, it's like anything. If you buy cheap SD cards, the chance of failure is higher. You know, you can get them all sorts of sizes now. I kind of recommend going 64. It's better, I would say, to get 1064. Well, yeah, that's got a big X through it. That says it's dead. That failed on me. It's better than getting a 256 that the right tab has broken on it, so I can't write to it anymore. You know, bigger is not always better in the world of SD cards. It's better to get many smaller ones and swap them out than it is to put all your money into a big one. You think, oh, I've got 256 gig, I can shoot for 16 hours solid, and then it breaks and you're absolutely brokenhearted. You really need to get out more, I suppose, if that sort of thing breaks your heart, but that's the kind of guy I am. 128 are quite good. We'll get on to what we're actually recording in a minute, but basically this is that sort of sweet spot in between consumer and prosumer. You can then attach this breakout handle to it, and it gives us the much famed XLR connections, which is the industry standard for decentness. It's a balanced audio input, which is better than your you know, the other connection you'll be familiar with perhaps is the 3.5mm input, which goes into smaller form factor cameras like this. But again, there's no rules here. I'm not saying you must go that way or you must go this way. And it's all going to be dependent upon what your application and requirement is. But for where I've been at for the past 15 years, it's reliability has always been the key. So what you can do is you can take this off here. You get your little puppy here, and obviously you clip in your shotgun. We didn't really speak about the pickup patterns of microphones. And you're like, well, what's all this shotgun talk, Con? What are you talking about? Not doing a bank job, are we? The thing is about shotgun mics is they have they're focused. So the pickup of the audio is very direct and focused. I'm no exaggeration here. I've sat in a room where I can't hear the person I'm talking to with my natural ears because of all the background noise, but it's picked them up perfectly because I've aimed this at the mouth and I can hear them through the thing. Now, a microphone like this with what's called a cardioid pattern, it picks up a shape of audio like this. So, you know, you speak into it like that, you're going to get a different signal to if you speak into it like that, if that makes sense. So these sort of things, you'll notice, you know, again, look at the size of that microphone pickup next to this. You don't have to be a mechanical engineer to work out that this is going to be more sensitive than this. So that if that's clipped there and you're in a noisy environment, it's going to pick up everything, because the distance, you know, it's picking up the whole room noise. Whereas this, and you'll see this often at football matches where there'll be pitch side or whatever, if they're in the studio and it's a nice controlled environment, they're wearing the lavs. But if they're pitch side, they're speaking into a microphone. So that's just a little something I forgot to mention earlier. So the nice thing about these is, and I was gonna show you a neat trick. Yeah, I know where it is now. The nice thing about these is that they obviously fit nicely in the hand, quite portable. Got the redundancy there. I do a lot of streaming, so I can connect into the switcher from the BNC, and nobody's going to come along and pull the wire out the back. So good versatility. You've got 3 of these, then you've got enough to make telly, basically, because I don't know, 95% of stats are made up on the spot. I don't think Vic Reeves quote there, but I would say the vast proportion of TVs is shot on 3 cameras. So you've got your wide, and then your mid, and your tight, and you know, the different cameras can switch between the 2. So it's all built in. The lens is fixed. It's got a zoom rocker, obviously, so you're going right through the range just on the one lens. You're not having to worry about changing lenses. Really, really good for gun and run. And I'll show you this. You've probably seen quite a lot of these about these days. Talking about Vic Reeves, what's on the end of the stick, Vic? So this is a very, very handy piece of kit. This, back in the day, I don't like to say I was an innovator or anything, but back in the day, I used to run around town in one of these filming stuff, and nobody else did. Now, when I look at events and things, everybody's got them, but they're great. Good old monopod, good old photographer's monopod with a plate on the top, not a china plate from my nan's cupboard. Turn it the right way around, Carl. Camera can lock onto there, and job's a good one. You can use it to get height. You'd have to use your imagination that the camera is actually above my head now, but because you can't see it on the screen. But you can use it to get height. You can use it to get a sort of stable sort of situation. And what I used to do was hold it there like I was some sort of digital Moses, and talk to whoever I was interviewing, frame it up here, get them, because the most important thing you need to do if you're talking to someone that's not familiar with cameras is get them to forget the fact that there's a camera. That's the best way of explaining that, really, because people react to a camera very similar to how they react to a gun, and that's, you know, fight or flight. People will either cower back in shame and embarrassment, or they'll rise to the occasion. So if you can make them not even aware that the camera's on, then that's great. Now, if I've got this stuck in front of my face and I'm interviewing somebody, first of all, it's sort of gets in the way of establishing a rapport with somebody, because you've got this, you know, it's like not really talking to a person, then are you? So you set up your shot. I'm not saying this is how you must do it. I'm just leaning on my experience. So apologies if this is completely irrelevant to you. So you set up your shot like this, and you can have your conversation. And then once you've got through a few niceties, and I'd always recommend throwing in a couple of throwaway questions at the start, just to ease somebody in before you go for the hard hitters. They've completely forgotten. They've completely forgotten about your camera, and they're intrigued as to what the conversation's about. So that's just a little tip there for grip, as we call it in the trade. Now, the interesting thing about this is called a. Unfortunately, I don't know the model name, because here's a little pro tip. If you've got a tripod or anything like that, wrap a bit of gaffer tape around your tripod there, and not only will people be precluded from stealing it because they'll think it's broken, but you'd always need a little bit of duct tape, a little bit of gaffer tape on a job, and this is just like having a little bit of roll just to tape cables down or something like that. Means you're not having to oh, where did I leave that? Oh, it's in the car. You know, you've always got it on you then, haven't you? So God, you're getting a lot of Jen here today, guys. You know, you really are. Years of sweat and toil. I'm just giving you just. Oh. So the other thing about this is this particular model. I think it's called the 640B. Again, Manfrotto, great company, but it's got you can screw legs on. You can pick these up for about 50 quid or so. You know, on eBay. Other vendors are available, but I don't like to keep people in tropical islands, if you know what I'm saying. So what you can do is you can attach the 3-prong leg to the bottom. Now, it's not the greatest tripod in the world, and if you're up that windy hill we were talking about earlier with your dead cat, then the chances are your camera's going to go for a bit. So, but woo, look, Mum, no hands, and it's actually makes it quite utilizable. The only problem is, I will say, not a massive problem, but when they just screw into the bottom like that, you see. The problem is that they rattle about, and it's moderately irritating, almost as irritating as having to listen to me for an hour and a half. Never mind, you'll get over it. Not offer counselling and some prescription medication to help you get over it. So, can you hear that? Can you hear that rattling? Bit nasty. Doesn't sound great on the audio, so you might want to whip the legs off. But really, as I say, really good. You can get over the top of crowds with it if you're out and about. And also the weight of it offers. I mean, it's not a Steadicam rig. Don't get me wrong. We'll get onto a bit of that in a minute, actually. I used to have a Steadicam rig. Such a nuisance. And being a one-man band, I never got to use it because it took it off the gig to strap yourself up and balance it. So Steadicam is really, if you're going to be a Steadicam operator, that's what you're going to do, and that's all you're going to do. It's a very specialised sort of thing. But this is like a poor person's, I need to say, like equivalent of a Steadicam in a sense. It offers, because you've got that vertical extension, it gives it a certain stability that you don't have when you're handheld in. It's not buttery smooth, and we can get onto gimbals shortly. I've gone on to grip, haven't I, really? And I was talking about cameras, so I do apologise. Always unlock the plate before you try and get the camera off. There's a pro tip for you. It works. Oh, there you go. It works a lot better. I mean, I might as well just talk about this sort of stuff. before we will get back into cameras. I did say we'd leave the best to last. So obviously a nice pair of legs, Whitwoo. These are again the glory of eBay. These are carbon fiber, so quite light. I'm looking really impressively strong here, but no, they're actually, this is really, really light. These, just the legs alone, retail about 700 quid without the head, and I got them for £300 off eBay. So yay me. That's probably my greatest achievement, to be fair. But obviously, there's your, we've all seen a tripod before, yeah. But again, something to bear in mind is carbon fiber, great. You get carbon fiber monopods now. No. How rude. How rude. Sorry, folks. Man in demand, what can you say? So, yeah, carbon fiber. You're spending a little bit more for carbon fiber, but it's going to save you sweat and pain in carrying things around. Obviously, a lot lighter, a lot stronger. And then obviously the thing, you can spend silly money on legs, in Vinton legs and things like that. You can spend thousands just on the legs and another couple of thousands for the head. Again, it's get yourself just behind that curve. Get yourself good prosumer kit. Again, for what the likes of what we're using it for, you don't need, you don't need ridiculously high spec equipment that's, yeah, if you've got a camera that weighs 15 pounds, then you're going to need more heavy duty legs. But if you've got smaller cameras, even this one, then horses for courses, think you know what I'm saying here. You're going to look a little bit foolish as well if you're rocking up with a big pair of cast iron Vinton legs and then strapping a little mirrorless camera to the top of it, So these, for me, these will carry all the different payloads that I've got quite comfortably. I've got some sturdier ones upstairs that, again, they weigh a ton, and I don't know what you sort of how you envisage yourself using these things, but because I run and gun, you've got to sort of carry everything. You've got to be a little bit of a snail, and it all sounds really good. And you think, it's like a Marine at the start of a speed march. Your kit doesn't feel that heavy, but at the end of 8 hours running around after people at an event, it can start getting a little bit tiresome, So again, nice head on the top. If you're setting up, again, things like interviews and things like that, where a locked off shot's important. I tend to find nowadays that, well, I don't know whether people will like it or not, but I tend to find that sort of slightly haphazard handheld style is the way forward. But maybe that's just me excusing my sloppy camera work, I don't know. Next on the grip front, this is well, you can get different size gimbals. You can get little ones for iPhones, or I keep saying iPhones, don't I? I'm forgetting our Galaxy cousins, so apologies all around there. But there was full disclosure that I was an Apple geek earlier, so sorry. So we've got this is suitable for the iPhone. I've actually used this in a commercial environment where I wanted to go walk through a Christmas fair, and when you start trying to do it with these with bigger cameras, you get everybody looking around, and it wasn't the sort of the look I was going for. So you slap this on an iPhone, and you just, or Galaxy, and you just look like a normal punter, and you don't attract attention to yourself, and therefore alter the reaction of people. So maybe that's something that's it basically, after the job I used it for, it sat on the shelf. You can, although to be fair, you can do some interesting things with this. This is a DJI Osmo, and you can obviously, with the help of an app, you can slap your camera into this, and you can program moving time lapses quite easily. So you can say start there, finish there, take 30 minutes to do it, and it will do it all for you. The only problem I found with using my phone to do 30-minute time lapses was somebody would no doubt want to get in touch with me, or I'd want to get in touch with somebody else. So a little bit awkward. But if you can, again, if budget's a thing, and it is, I mean, look, you're looking at 15 years of collecting stuff. I was going to use another word there, which was similar letters. But so I'm not suggesting that anybody runs out and buys all this, but I'm just, maybe I'm kind of hoping that I'm barking up the right tree by going about my show and tell here, that you might pick up a little bit of a tip, or learn from my my experience, perhaps. So this is another Chinese effort, a Xeon gimbal, and it basically, I won't put it all together now, but you will have seen these. You may even have them yourself. But this and a DSLR with a wide lens, I mean, the shots it can give you is just beyond, buttery smooth. Basically, it's got 3 motors in each of these axes, and it basically by some digital magic, some digital black magic, keeps it stable. Algorithm keeps it stable, and you can do your bit with that. Takes a little bit of time to balance it and get it right, but once you do, as I say, the shot's great for walkthroughs. If you're doing any sort of property stuff, things like that, I've used it for, where you're walking through hotels or apartments and things like that. Bit of speed ramping in post production, jobs are good. So
brand name of that, sorry.
Xeon. I'm just looking for how it's spelled, because it's spelled funny. It's spelled like Z. ZHIYUN.
Okay, thanks.
And it's actually, this is quite old now, a bit like myself. But there's better sort of incarnations of this now, which are probably quite cheap. If there's any boats still sailing from China, I'm not sure. But it's sort of, one of the drawbacks of this sort of model is that you slap your camera on the front of this and you can't actually see what you're shooting because the motor's in the way. So they've made one where it sits in a V now, which is a lot more accessible. You can get a little screen that you can obviously put on your camera to get around that. What I used to do was attach a screen to the bottom of the gimbal, and so you could sort of hold it up and see what was happening. But again, I don't like to be that guy that turns up with the little camera with more attachments to it than anything, because this is going back to my computer programming days. The more complexity you add to anything in life, the more potential for failure there is. And again, if you're doing something in a non-critical environment where you can just go, oh, hang on, cut, let's go again, that's not too bad. But unfortunately, I've painted myself into a corner where I'm doing, as I mentioned before, you know, a lot of live events where you get one chance of getting something, and you don't want to be hampered because you've got 4 pieces of kit hanging off your camera and the battery's gone off one, and it's a different battery than the other. You know, just have one camera that takes one type of battery, have your pocket filled with enough batteries to shoot for about 14 weeks, and you're all right. You'll need big pockets, but that's not too bad, is it? I think that covers us on grip. Although I will say, just after the because I'm feeling generous, just after the duct tape tip, good things to have in your weaponry is these clips. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about green screen today, although I just have just then. But green screen is a thing, and these are handy to clip up a bit of chroma key to wherever. And I've actually got, again, like the pop-up reflector, you can get pop-up green screens now where they're circular, yay big, and you unfold them and you pop up to, you know, 2 meters by 1 meter. The joy is getting them back in the bag at the end of the shoot. You do again look like the man on the beach with the deck chair, and I don't. That's thing, but these are really handy. Again, it's the little things. I've used these smaller versions on shoots with models where they need their dress tightened to give them a better shape. You know, it's the versatility, well, is something unbelievable. You can give yourself a quick facelift if you clip it on the back of your neck. The uses are endless. So back to cameras. So we've covered the standard sort of video camera, I think, possibly. Obviously, there's a million incarnations of this. One word I'll just say about, well, or several words strung together in a sentence is the resolution. Now, if these shoot in 4K, I very rarely shoot 4K for a couple of reasons. One is that it's 4 times the storage space of 1080, and most people, again, it's going to depend where you're delivering your footage to, your final product to, but it's an important consideration. Most of what I do goes online, so 1080 is good enough. Now, you can shoot in 4K, and that's great if you've got a static shot and you want to crop into it and not lose the resolution, not for it to go all blocky. But you've got to think that shooting the stuff is only sort of 1/2 of the story. You've got to get home and edit it then, haven't you? You've got to then wrangle what you've shot. And I've got 100 terabytes of storage here, you know, online storage. I'll just diverse. We'll get onto cameras eventually, because I think it's important to mention this about storage. It's back in the day when I started, it was on everything was on DV tape, and that was great because it wasn't great because if you shot an hour of DV, you'd have to wait an hour for it to ingest, because it would ingest in real time. But your DV tape became your backup, became your archive. So you'd stick your tape in a shoebox and forget about it. Then some bright spark came up with the idea of shooting onto flash media, SD cards and the like, which we're all familiar with, I'm sure, because this is the de facto standard now. And you go out and you shoot, and then the next day you format your card and you shoot again, and the next day, and rinse and repeat ad infinitum until your card dies. But what happens 6 months down the line when maybe the client comes back and says, oh, you know that job we did, can we have another edit? But this time we need it for Twitter or something, you know, or you went and shot something and you're doing another job, and what you shot would be a handy GV, a handy general view of something else, you know, good stock footage. And you've recorded over your tape, and your project, you've recorded over your disc rather, and your project doesn't contain all the footage that you want to use for this other thing. So what you do? You get a load of external drives, and then you've got a stack of half a dozen drives that you don't know what's on. Well, there's a bit of a warning, a bit of a caveat with external drives. If you leave them on the shelf for too long, there's a fairly good chance that that they'll demagnetize. Drives need to be spun up frequently. Old-fashioned drives, moving head drives, need to be spun up frequently to maintain the data integrity. So the thing I was always taught in computers, that if something doesn't exist in 3 places, it doesn't exist digitally, I'm talking about. I could copy my data to this afterwards as a backup and think, oh, I'm gorgeous, I've got a backup of their data. And then the drive fails. Where's my backup? So then I've got 2 drives. So you're adding complexity all the while. It's just something to think about. It's not, and I don't know whether I'm going too far off piece there, Martin, talking about this side of things. But this is what you need to think about. This is a Pegasus RAID. Now it's not Thunderbolt 3 because it doesn't need to be. Rein yourself back in from wanting the shiny new ball and the latest toy. Just do something that does the job. You can get these. You can pick these up again on eBay. About 450 quid. They were a couple of grand when they came out a few years ago. Thunderbolt 1, but quite fast enough to edit video from. Obviously, it's a RAID array. So you've got basically one of these drives can die before you lose your data. So you'll get a warning. And I've had many drives die individually. The chances of 2 dying, I don't want to get into the fineries of RAID and the fact that you can have a redundancy of 2 drives and stuff. But say we use RAID 5, where if these are 3 terabytes each, that will give you 9 terabytes of storage, actual storage that you can utilize. There's 12 terabytes in there, but because of the way it stripes the data across the disks, you can lose 1 disk and you're still all good. You get a little warning light, you panic, turn it off, just, go and get yourself another drive, put the other drive in, stick it on, leave it probably overnight for it to resync itself, and no harm, no foul. So that's something to think about. There's another company called Synology. They do RAID devices, probably not fast enough to edit your stuff off, but a good cheap solution to storing your data on as a backup. So I think that's worthy of note, because data wrangling is the great sort of unloved cousin of videography, in the fact that we don't, we're so consumed with what it is we're filming, or what it is we're filming on, or how we're going about it, that we forget. You know, in the digital world, video takes up more space than anything, and due to the high compression of the codecs that take place, it's not like you're storing a load of old text documents and you can scrunch them up to nothing, you know. So that's good safe practice for things. Now, I'll just mention this briefly. I then, at the end of each year, I write off all my raw footage to LTO tapes, which are industry standard sort of archive tapes, the banking industry, etc. And they guarantee 20 years of well, if stored correctly, of life. I say guarantee, you know, that's the expected sort of life. So I'll write these off to 2 tapes at the end of each year. So if ever I get anybody that says, "Oh, do you remember that job we shot in 2013?" You know, I can go and pull out the data for it, and I store one here and one off-site in a secure location. Well, they've told me it's secure. We'll see. Anyway, so that's enough meandering around the garden path. Let's talk about cameras. Finally, Colin, finally, you say. So, again, being a Sony man and wanting a bit of versatility, yes, we've got the family of these that they really live with the streaming kit. We'll put them to one side, but to get a little bit more filmmakery, we've got we were looking for a more versatile solution, shall we say? So bring in. So this is a Sony FS5. Is it Sony? Yeah, it is. And again, it's got the same connections, the SDI and XLR, again providing phantom power. Another XLR there. It's you can take the handle off. I haven't took this off for ages. I hope I can get it back on. All sorts. So it completely different form factor now. Obviously the screen, you can put the screen back on and not the handle. So depending on what you need to shoot, this is more like the sensor in this is 35mm. So this is like a, you know, more like a cine camera, if you like. It's got but the beauty of this is it's got interchangeable lenses. So, well, I'm sure we can work out where we're going from there. We can change the lenses according to where we want to go. Helps if you line them up properly. Now, the beauty of this is that, and this is the reason why I sort of like to sit in this Sony ecosystem, even though I can't see what I'm doing. There you go. I have done this before, honestly. So you might be wondering. So here's another Sony camera. This is called a A6500. You can pick these up on eBay now for about between £600 and £800. It's a 4K camera. Now it only shoots to one SD card, and what we were talking about before, now that might not be an issue for you, but it's something to bear in mind. But the reason why I love this is because I've got two cameras that are suitable for two completely different sort of stratas of work, but they share the same glass. They share the same mount, E-mount lenses. So that's I can rock up somewhere with this, even though I can't get the lens back on again. Where's the white dot? There's a white dot there, you see, and there's a white dot on the lens, and you marry them up and give it a twist, and jobs are good. Now this doesn't come with the camera. This is additional piece of goings on. But you can obviously put a light on it, and so on and so forth. The beauty of this is that this shoots amazing quality footage. Absolutely, I can't speak highly enough of the 6500. Again, this is quite funky. These are peak straps, which they're a bit dear, but if you see, you just pull that button down and it comes off. So it's ideal for the gimbal, because most camera straps, so that was relatively easy under pressure. Most camera straps, say, like on this one, are, you know, threaded through little eye hoops and things. But when you try and put that on the gimbal, it's you're in danger of garrotting yourself and everybody else around you. So having one of those Peak Design straps lets you get to the nub of this. This is quite a big looking lens for the small body. Looks a little bit weird, but that's what have we got? It's 18 millimeter to 105. So it's got quite a good reach, but it can look even sillier than that, because we can go 70 to 200. Where's my camera gone now? Just talk amongst yourselves.
Can I ask you a question?
Please do.
So this is in respect to the A6500, 6500 Sony.
Yes.
Could you talk about say prime lenses, not the zoom lenses, just prime lenses? What you would use and what situations you'd use them for, and just, you know, particular lenses that you might use yourself, whether they're native lenses or kind of third-party ones.
Yeah, well, I always go for Sony branded lenses. That you can adapt pretty much any lens to any mount to any mount. So you could have some really old Olympus glass, and you could adapt it. You'd lose any autofocus ability or anything like that. Everything would be manual. But you're right in what you say. Some of them old prime lenses are give a look that you just don't get with modern super coated multi-element lenses. Again, though, at the price of automaticness. And for me, in what I do, I don't have time to sort it out. You know, I know that the Puritans will all attack me here because, you know, everything's meant to be in full manual mode. But with running and gunning, I found out that some little fella in a white coat had developed a chip that lets the camera make the decisions on what to do. And 9 times out of 10, it's pretty good. And when you don't have the time, then it's not good. But if you do have the time to sit and to frame and to focus your shot up, then prime lenses could be a real boon to you. This is I've got another one. I've got on this at the moment is you know, there's a perfect example. that's a fixed focal length lens. That's a 50mm. Now it's an APS sensor, so you've got to do some maths to get its true thing, but it's essentially it's a nifty 50, and that's ideal for portrait work, because that's the sort of lens a 50mm will knock out the background. You know, it'll let you, it's quite close up to the talent, but it'll bokeh the background, so it'll give that separation that a lot of people like. It's often it's a style thing. People, you know, some people like that separation. Some people like the flatter look, you know. But if you've not got much movement and it's a fixed, say for example, if I was doing an interview and this was locked off, you know, shooting across the talent or the subject or the victim, as I like to call them, then that will actually, you know, knock out the background and give greater clarity to the to the subject. Again, then going the other way, you've got wide angle. Again, this is I tend to steer away from fixed focal length lenses because I need the versatility. I'm not decrying them, and I'm not saying that they're naff or you shouldn't. Again, it's all down to what your usage is and what you want to get out of the system. So I would say that you want to have, if you're going to go fixed, you want to get yourself like a 10, a 12mm lens for your wides. You want to get yourself a nifty. I think the first one you want to get in your bag is that nifty 50. That's your sort of bread and butter fixed focal length prime lens, where, you know, if you're not close, if it's too close, move back, and if it's not close enough, get further forward in. And if you're setting up shots, you know, if you're in a more of a traditional, what I would call a traditional filmmaking environment, where you've got a script to work off and you've got a shot list and things like that, then you can take more time in thinking about your shot. But if you're in a run and gun environment, if you're out and about capturing something, an event or a wedding, perish the thought, or something like that, where you've got to be more reactionary to what's going on, you don't want to be fumbling about in your bag because you've got the wrong lens on. You want to be, you know, twisting it quick, and that's why. I mean, I've got a 6500 and I've got somewhere else. I was all organised before, but everything's gone to cock. And I've got the 6000 now. The 6000, you can pick that up on eBay again. It's 250 quid, cheap as chips. Now it doesn't. Oh, that's a 6500, but they look virtually identical. Look, I can't even tell the difference between the two, and they look that similar. But this shoots in 4K. It doesn't have the external microphone input. But the point I'm trying to make there is, if you've got several prime lenses, and this is why you'll see photographers out and about on job with several cameras around them, one of them will have a telephoto lens on and another will have a wider lens on. So instead of fumbling about and changing the lens, they're just switching the camera, and that's the sort of thing. But yeah, I would say get a you know, anything between a 10 and 18mm for your wide, and then your 50, and then maybe, you know, again, 200mm is probably too much for filmmaking, but it depends what you're filmmaking. If you're going to shoot the Red Arrows, you're going to be quite pleased you've got a 200mm lens, you know. Yeah, is that anywhere near helpful by way of an answer?
One thing I'm interested, say, you know, cinematographers 30, 40, 50 years ago, what would be the typical lens they'd have on their camera in terms of millimeters?
Oh dear. I think 35mm was the de facto way back in the day. Although 50 is, again, 50 is there's with film, you know, the DOP sort of filmmaker thing. There's so much variation in, and particularly these days, when you combine focal length with sensor size, there's so many different permutations you can get. I personally would say, don't be restricted by what's gone on in the past. Find something that works for you. Do you know what I mean? Find an aesthetic that meets your needs. I mean, you know, way back. I mean, how far back back do you want to go? Do you want to go to the Lumiere brothers, or, you know, is the camera hand cranked? You know, it's
The question, I'm just interested what, you know, in terms of capturing, you know, everything that they need, what would be the typical kind of
anything
focal length?
anything between 35 and 50, I'd say,
35, 50, yeah.
for you sort of, for how they were doing it back in the day, because having the camera in your face now and having these super close-up things is quite a you know, a new sort of thing. Going back in time, everyone was, you know, cameras were so unwieldy. There was no such thing as handheld shots. You know, you need hands the size of Goliath. So, you know, everything was locked off on a tripod to give you that thing. And you, with that, then you know, you're literally measuring out with a piece of tape, you know, the difference between the subject and the lens. But it's all better off now because of the portability of equipment, you know, and just a cursory look in Jessop's, you know, window will show you the whole gambit of equipment, won't it? That, you know, of different focal lengths from different manufacturers, and I think it's more about finding something. You know, I can't sit here and say, oh, this is the right thing, or that's the wrong thing, like that. It's finding an aesthetic and a style and a workflow that works for you, isn't it?
And a price as well.
Yeah. Definitely on a price. Definitely.
Because if you go for the top of the range Sony lenses, I mean, they're hugely more expensive than, say, like the Sigmas or things like that.
Definitely. And also the lowest f number, you know, the widest aperture that it can take affects the price. I mean, this is only f4. You can get an f1.8 version, which basically means it lets in more light, so it can work in lower light conditions, which is 3 times the price. You know, so it's about, you know, like this 50mm is 1.8, so it works really well in low light conditions. Whereas this, and this is a G Master, so it's no means a slouch, but its widest aperture is f4. So if you're the sort of guy that can be bothered, you know, taking the time to set the aperture and open the, you know, focus it by hand, then you can pick up some cracking, you know, sort of retro glass, if you like, antique glass. Get a Speedbones Meta adapter on it, and you're good to go, and you're getting a look that's pretty unique, because people, you know, in this fast turnaround disposable age don't give themselves the luxury to be more artisan about their shooting, if you get me. But always price is the limiting factor, and as I say, that's why I'm surrounded by an embarrassment of riches technologically speaking, but I didn't run out and buy all these on day one, you know, and it's about prioritization. So I would say from the get-go, whatever she is you know, something that okay, it doesn't offer the functionality of switching out into prime lenses, but it gives you the versatility of having a rocker switch and being able to go from wide to tight without the faff. But again, that's because I'm a man that enjoys little faff. You know, somebody else could thrive on such things, and you know, it's very difficult in this sort of world to make any hard and fast rules, isn't it? You know, it's make it up as you go along. Make your rules from within the defined parameters. That's my sort of tip, because let's face it, the greatest sort of invention and creativity that comes out of life is by, you know, doing something different, isn't it? If we all shot like the Luminaire brothers, then how would filmmaking have progressed in the past 120, 50 years? I don't know. You know.
See, I always had you down as a man who was quite into faff, but no, I'm clearly wrong about that. That's absolutely amazing, Colin. That
Nice.
huge pile of information
Yeah.
you've given us there tonight. It's absolutely wonderful. I've
Thank
got
you.
a question for you,
Go on.
which is about having your own kit, right?
Yeah.
Which is very much how filmmaking or TV work can happen at the moment. Is you get hired, especially if you're a sound guy and you have your own kit, right? And what you're doing is hiring the sound guy, but hiring his or her own kit as well, and they're going to turn up with their kit and their own kit, and their own insurance, and all the rest of it. And that kind of freelance work is quite common. So, what's your sort of advice around that? If somebody want to become a freelance videographer, or a freelance sound, even freelance lighter.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you didn't have, it's very difficult, isn't it? If you didn't have the kit, then how could you pimp yourself out of having the experience of using the kit? I think that's the thing. Although I would say, if you were able to use it and you did get yourself a gig, you'd always hire. You know, that's that. You know, you can, and it could be a good idea that, you know, before you run out and shell out $8 grand on one of these, that you hire one for the weekend first, you know, and give it a go. But it's right what you say, Martin. It's very much the gig economy now. You're not rocking up, and, you know, gone are the days where you serve an apprenticeship with a broadcaster or a media company, and they you know, you use their equipment. It's very much everything is subbied out now. So yeah, did that help?
Just a bite of the reality sandwich.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're in catch-22 there, aren't you? I think from starting off on day one, you know, it's going to be very difficult to get somebody to take you on board and then give you the equipment to do it as well. I'm not sure that environment exists. I think you need to jump. But you can make a pro something or other with a camera that costs you 300 quid and a lens that costs you 150, if you've got the wherewithal to go about it. And then what you make becomes your selling card. Then that's what gets you hired. It's not about what gear you've got. And people aren't really that impressed. Like, it's crazy. I used to have bigger broadcast cameras. I'll try and answer this really quickly. I used to have bigger cameras and think, oh, if you rock up with a big camera, you look amazing and people take you really seriously. And yeah, a little bit. But you turn up with a small camera with people knowing what you can do, and they're like, "Ooh, isn't technology amazing? Look at the size of that camera. You wouldn't believe that." So, you know, and everybody's different, aren't they? You know, some clients, I've got a PR company that I work for, and they'll say to me, "Oh, turn up today like with your biggest camera," you know, because their client is sold on the bullshizzle that says bigger is better, and it's all about how things look, you know. Whereas if I'm doing something for my own passion, I'll turn up with a small camera because it's, you know, it's away and then it's out, and then, you know, and people aren't. I always find that you're getting more natural sort of responses to small, unobtrusive kit than you do rocking up looking like you've turned up from Granada Reports.
We could talk all night about this stuff.
I'm sorry, I know.
It's been really amazing to listen to you, and we're going to need to get you back because we haven't really got on to talking about shooting on your iPhone or doing that sort of thing. We haven't. I mean, we had to scratch.
Oh yeah, I didn't even tell you about bit depth and post-processing iPhone footage. Look, I'm really sorry.
Right, so we're going to have to get you back. I'm going to have to talk some more about stuff. But that's been absolutely amazing, Cole. Thanks.
No, thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks
that.
for having me.
Yeah, checks in the post.
Hey!
Good to see you, Colin.
Nice one, and yourselves. Listen, all the best, everyone. Listen, I'll see you soon. Get your questions lined up.
Thank you.
We've definitely got you scheduled in for editing stuff as well. So Colin's next.
Okay. At least I'll be focused. At least I'll be focused.
Nice one, Colin.
Great stuff, Colin. We'll see you later.
See you now. Take care.
And there goes Colin. And there you go. Right, that was great. But it's great, but an awful lot to take in. So what I suggest we have a little break now. Now, Karen, are you with us? See, Karen's frozen. I noticed that Karen had frozen some time ago. I think that Karen has a problem at her end. And what we might have to do is shut the whole thing down and start again for the second half, right? So if everybody shuts down, and Karen will send another link for a Zoom for the second half, and then we'll get going again, right? So everybody just come out of this. Don't bother trying to switch your cameras off or put your sound off. Wait a minute. I've got a message from Karen. I can hear you, but still have the circle of doom, right? But she's frozen there in the top left-hand corner. Everybody come out, shut down Zoom. Karen will send us a new link, or I'll send a new link, and then we will get going again at, let's make a cup of tea and have a rest. Come back at 7:15. How's that sound? Right, okay, see you all at 7:15. Everybody just come out. Karen says, I'll send a new link for 7:15. Right, okay, yeah, good. Bye.